Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Do you guys struggle trying to get your red dot for your handgun zeroed? Well, have you ever considered using a laser bore sighter? Well, that's too bad. We're not going to use that today because I'm going to teach you guys how to zero your red dot using some basic math skills and a tape measure. For starters, here to join us on today's journey is going to be the CV Life. This is the Wild Hawk series red dot sight. So we're going to be using this on the handgun in question, which is the Canik TP9 Elite SC. This is an RMSC platform, also RMS. You guys can see there, very nice looking sight, absolutely beautiful. Now let's jump into it. Some of you may be thinking, what is an MOA and what does it stand for? MOA stands for a minute of angle. And in the firearms community, we use this on all of our applications for our scopes and red dots to zero them into our target. It's the adjustment that we need to make. So on scopes, typically what is going to happen is one click is going to equal a quarter MOA. Now in handgun red dots, for instance, they're typically always going to be one click is going to equal 1 inch MOA. So 1 inch at 100 yards, same thing with a scope, it's going to be 1/4 inch at 100 yards. So when we are talking about handgun red dot sights, usually what's going to happen is these red dots are going to have 1 inch, 1 MOA would equal 1 inch at 100 yards. Your elevation is usually going to be up top, tiny little screw hole right there. Along with the right hand side is going to be your windage. So they typically provide a tool for these adjustments. You would go ahead and insert it down into the elevation I am on right now. You'll hear one audible click. That would simulate 1 inch at 100 yards. We'll get into the mathematics here shortly. And then the same thing would be for your windage on the side over here. And that is how you will make your adjustments. So when we are zeroing a red dot in, we want to zero at distance. Why, you may ask? Because if you were to zero a red dot at 5 yards, anything past 5 yards is going to shoot super high. So we don't want to do that. The most optimal place to zero red dot for handguns is typically 15 to 25 yards. That is a more level playing field. It's going to impact again at 50 yards, at 15 yards. So if we were to impact here, it would impact again at 50 yards because the bullets drop when they come out of a barrel. They don't steady in a straight line, make it all the way down. They will eventually fall off. It also depends on the grain of powder you're using and whatever rounds you're using. So best spots, 15 and 25 yards is going to be your best bet for getting a nice, consistent shot over and over again and repeatedly. So here's a good representation of how things would look filtering from 100 yards. So going off of 1 MOA equals 1 inch at 100 yards, this is kind of the diagram that we would be expecting to see. So your range is going to broaden out to 1 inch at 100 yards, but everything in here is what we're going to be focusing on, because you're not going to be zeroing past 100 yards. And if you are, props to you. But the mathematical equation we're going to be using this is going to be 100 divided by the distance that you're shooting at is going to equal the number of clicks that we need to use to get our optic zeroed into place. So let's say, for instance, we're going to be focusing on the 15 yard or the 25 yard. We'll do one for both and we'll break that down. So if we're going to be doing some simple mathematical equation, so let's say at 15 yards, you would need to divide by 100. So 100 divided by 15 is 6.6 continued. In this case, we'd round up to the nearest whole number, which is going to be 7 clicks per inch. So if you need to move over 2 inches to the right, then you need to do 14 clicks because it would be multiplied times 2 for the inch. Now if we're doing a simpler number like 25 goes into 100 4 times, that would be 4 clicks per 1 inch. We'll move along up here and show you a little bit of how our math would look for these. So let's go ahead and break down the math. This is a simple little target that I drew here. We're pretending that it is 25 yards away. So we're pretending that I am zeroing a red dot in at 25 yards. So we're gonna pick a random bolt hole here. Let's go with this one, 4 inches to the right. So we need to adjust 4 inches to the left to get our proper zeroing. So for this equation, we need to break this down into a little bit more simple steps. So if we know 100 yards equals 1 inch adjustments, that means that 75 yards is going to equal 3/4 of an inch, 50 yards is going to equal 1/2 inch, and 25 yards, which is our case in particular, is going to equal 1/4 inch per one click. Stemming from the filtering gallery, we know that 25 equals 1/4 inch for one click, which is here. So the math that we're going to be doing for this particular instance, having to move 4 inches to the left, is going to be the 100, which is 1 inch. So 100 divided by 25, which is the yardage our target is at, which equals 4. So 4 clicks in this instance equals 1 whole MOA. So the math for that is going to be the 4 clicks for 1 MOA times the 4 inches that we need to move over. So in this case, it's 4 inches. So 4 times 4 is 16 clicks. So 16 clicks counterclockwise would get us into the center of the target. And let's say you had 2 inches, for instance, it would be 4 times 2, which is 8. So you would have 8 clicks to get to the center of the target. So we are set up 25 yards away from our target. I'm going to be firing 3 rounds through the Canik TP9 Elite SC with the CV Life Wild Hawk on. I took this out of the box, mounted it. There's been no zeroing whatsoever done on this weapon system yet. We're going to go ahead, fire 3 rounds, make our adjustments as needed, and let's see how well this optic performs. So as you guys can see here, 25 yards away, you see those in the background over there. We do have the GoPro 11 rolling down there to get you guys a closer angle. Right out of the box, it's not zeroed at all. So I'm taking a big risk putting my camera right in front of the target. But I put a lot of faith in the CV Life's products. I think we'll be just fine. So the biggest takeaway when it comes to zeroing any type of red dot or scope is finding a nice flat position to rest your gun or your hands upon when you were trying to zero that. We want to eliminate as much human error as physically possible. So in this case, I'm going to be utilizing this bag. You can use sandbags, bipods for rifles, stuff like that. Something that's going to keep that gun nice and controlled throughout the process of you trying to zero it. The more stable that you are throughout this process, the quicker you're going to get your red dot zeroed, and the less ammo you're going to have to waste getting this optic where it needs to be. So within my target down range at 25 yards, I have a tiny little circle. It is orange and it has a nice black little ring on the middle. I'm going to go for that middle shot. I'm going to place my red dot upon that. We'll go down, we'll measure it, and we'll see how well it did and what adjustments that we need to make. So 3 loaded up, we'll go ahead and shoot some. So as you guys can see here, we were going for the center of this. My first initial impact was the top right hand corner of this little box right here. So this little meter I have, we're gonna go ahead and measure over to the right and see how far we are off. In this case, looks to be just a little over 2 inches to the right. And then vertically we have, let's see, just over 3.5 inches. So about 2 inches to the right and about 3 inches too high, 3.5 inches too high. So we're gonna go ahead and do the math for that and get this calculated. So going off my math from earlier, we know that at 25 yards, my MOA increments only equal 1/4 inch. So we need to calculate for my elevation and windage in this case, since we are 3.5 inches too high and 2 inches too far to the right. So if we know that 4 whole clicks equals 1 whole MOA, we know that we need to multiply that 4 times our 2 inches, which equals 8. So we will have 8 total clicks going off to the left-hand side to account for that 2 inches. So we're gonna go ahead, we're just gonna rotate this, the 8 clicks. Get this nice little tool in there. So now to adjust for our elevation, we need to go down. To figure out that math, we need to do the 4 clicks to equal the 1 whole MOA. We need to move down 3.5 inches. So we're going to do 4 times 3.5, which equals 14 clicks. We're going to go ahead and do 14 clicks rotating in the downward position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Readjust. 11, 12, 13, 14. Now we should be all ready to go. We'll go ahead and test it on the target at 25 yards. So with 2 more loaded up, we're gonna go ahead and take 2 more shots downrange, and we will see how well our adjustments worked and if we need to make any further adjustments. So I'm not quite sure what happened there, but here, this is what we're looking for. At 25 yards away, that is pretty dang good. As you guys can see, we are just a little to the left and just a little right. I'd say that's under an inch, which is a very good group at 25 yards away. We'll go ahead and make some very minor adjustments and see if we can get that right where we need it. After 2 very minute adjustments, we're gonna go ahead and switch it up, and we're gonna go for the target on the left, which is a lot bigger of a target. And we're gonna try to go for the center of that as much as possible. Nice and stabilized, 2 more rounds. Let's see how well it does. Beautiful. Another little outlier here, I'm not sure what happened, but this right here, this is impressive. At 25 yards, that is a perfect hit. Nice, stabilized and controlled, nice, easy pull of the trigger, and that is what we get as an outcome. That is a very impressive shot, as we know that all of my adjustments and my math was right, and that is simply how you guys zero a red dot. Well, you guys, that's gonna go ahead and do it for today's video. Big shout out to CV Life for sending out the Wild Hawk that we had the pleasure of getting to do this video with. It performed absolutely flawlessly, and if you guys are interested, go ahead and drop down below. I have a link in the description to this particular optic and to their webpage where you guys can go check out what they have to offer. They make scopes, red dots, fantastic products from them as always. So be sure to go give them a check.